When I fell down from upstairs, Juliet was attending a piano recital. My family and fiancé were too busy cheering and blessing her to claim my body. But that opportunity on the stage should have been mine. The piano under Juliet's fingers should have been my birthday present. She took everything from me, yet my parents and younger brother all stood by her side without hesitation. They even didn't hesitate to cut off relations with me. It was only on the verge of death that I suddenly came to my senses. I might as well not have this love that has been partial for a long time. I was reborn, back to the year when I was 12 years old. This was exactly the turning point when Juliet wanted to change her name and become a member of the Isabella family. Juliet was my uncle's daughter. My uncle's family died in an accident, leaving only the frail Juliet behind. Back then, my uncle worked to support my father's studies. In return for his kindness, my father adopted her as my younger sister. Juliet hugged my mother, flashed a brilliant smile, and cocosai said, "Mom, I want to have the same generation name character as my sister. My previous name didn't have much meaning. I also want you and Dad to give me a meaningful name." My mother gently touched her face with a look of pity. "Sure. Once you have the generation name character, you'll be one of us." My mother smiled and said, "Your younger brother is called Julian. How about naming you Juliet?" I stood outside the door, looking coldly at this scene of motherly kindness and daughter-like filial piety. My father glanced at me with an extremely stern expression. It seemed that he thought I would do something to Juliet. "Isabella, from now on Juliet is your sister. You should show the magnanimity of an elder sister. Juliet is not in good health, and your uncle and aunt have just passed away. You're not allowed to bully her in the future. Do you hear me?" I twitched the corners of my mouth. I've lost count of how many times I've heard these words. This was exactly how they taught me in my previous life. It was Juliet who had stolen all the love that my parents originally had for me. Just because she was an orphan and in poor health, I was supposed to keep giving in to her. In the end, there was nothing left for me. But I'm only a few months older than Juliet. Why should I show the magnanimity of an elder sister to tolerate her? After all, it's the child who knows how to cry that gets the candy. Her cheerful look always makes her more pitiful than me. I still can't forget that the last time my mother saw me in my previous life, her eyes were filled with disgust. "Isabella, how could you not spare even your sister? You don't deserve to be our daughter." Presumably, she didn't remember that ever since Juliet came, I was no longer the daughter of this family. Instead, Juliet was more like her biological daughter. My mother noticed my gaze and gently coaxed me. "Don't be jealous, my dear daughter. Even with Juliet around, Mom will still love you the most." Juliet's eyes flickered for a moment, showing a gloominess that didn't belong to her age. If I hadn't been reborn, I would never have imagined that she was so scheming. The next second, she put on another expression and called me with a pitiful voice. "Sister, don't you welcome me?" I was too lazy to play the game of elder sister friendly and younger sister respectful with her, so I turned around and left. Just as my mother was about to call me back, my father stopped her. "She's been spoiled so much that she's full of bad habits, and doesn't even know basic manners. She can't compare to Juliet, who is well behaved and sensible at all." My hand on the door paused for a moment, and then I went back to my room as if nothing had happened. When I knew I was reborn, I was ready to stop dwelling on this so-called family affection. But my father's words still made my heart ache a little. After that, I hardly stepped out of my room. Besides not wanting to see Juliet, I also wanted to study hard so that I could get away from the Isabella family as soon as possible and no longer be an obstacle for them to get close to Juliet. "Sister, Mom asked me to bring you some fruits." When I was studying, Juliet knocked on my door. I didn't want to be hypocritical with her, so I ignored her. The next moment Juliet's voice with a hint of crying came from outside the room. "Mom, does my sister hate me? She ignored me when I brought her fruits. Did I do something wrong? Since my sister doesn't welcome me, I'd better go back to the orphanage." My mother quickly comforted her. "What silly words are you saying? Your sister is just in a bit of a bad mood. Don't be angry with her. How about I ask her to play with you next time? My younger brother also said in a babyish voice, that's right. I think Sister Juliet is the best. Ignore that bad person inside. I opened the door and sneered, stop making noise. I know your family has a good relationship. Now I want to study. Can you be quiet? Juliet shrank back as if she was frightened by me. Sister, did I disturb you? It's all my fault. I'll leave now. Sister, don't hate me. Fine, you can go back to your orphanage right away, I said in an unfriendly tone. Upon hearing this, Julianne pushed me hard and then stood in front of Juliet to protect her. I don't want Sister Juliet to leave. You're the one who should leave. You're a bad person. Such words didn't draw any scolding from my mother. Instead, she looked at me with a reproachful look. Isabella, when will you be as sensible as Juliet? My hand instinctively clenched into a fist. I couldn't help raising my voice. Now you have such a sensible daughter like her, which is exactly what you want. My father had just come back from outside and didn't know what had happened. He started scolding me right away. Isabella, what's your attitude? You know very well about Juliet's situation. She's your sister now. When will you act like an elder sister? Even your younger brother knows that we're a family. You apologize to Juliet right now. I looked at the four of them quietly as if there was a huge chasm separating us. They stood on the other side of the chasm, and I stood alone on this side. They were a family, and I was the annoying outsider. It's so ridiculous. My own parents only favored an outsider, yet they scolded their own daughter without distinguishing right from wrong. Even my younger brother, who I loved the most, sided with her. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Juliet's triumphant smile and thought that all of this was absurd. I slammed the door shut, blocking out their knocking and the voices forcing me to apologize to Juliet. Leaning against the door, I took a deep breath. I could still vaguely hear their voices comforting Juliet. It was the same in my previous life. Even if I didn't target Juliet, they still thought I was bullying her. Do I have to greet her with a smiling face all the time? As long as she lowered her eyes, it was my fault. Could there be anything more ridiculous than this? Before long, my 13th birthday arrived. My mother gave me a piano that I had been dreaming of. I've loved playing the piano since I was a child. But because pianos are expensive and our family wasn't well off, I could only practice at the music store before, and I often got dirty looks from the store owner there. I watched the piano movers busy coming and going, and there was no ripple in my heart. I also happened to catch a trace of envy in Juliet's eyes. My mother gently stroked my head. Isabella, take a look. Do you like it? Mom and Dad specially chose it for you. You know, we love you. My father chimed in beside her. Yes, Mom and Dad bought you such an expensive piano. You should learn to be grateful to your parents and not be petty all the time. Be nicer to Juliet in the future. Juliet is not in good health, and we're all family. Before I could say anything, Juliet let out a soft ah. Everyone's attention was drawn to her. Noticing our gazes, she pretended to be shy and lowered her head. I really envy my sister for having such good parents. I've only seen such expensive things as pianos in the showcase. I didn't even dare to touch them. They all say that learning these things is a waste of money. My mother was deeply moved by her words and looked at her with a pained expression. The next second, she led Juliet to sit in front of the piano, just like in my previous life. My father lovingly placed his hand on her shoulder and sighed. Isabella, Mom and Dad have doted on you since you were a child. You can have whatever you want. Your sister has suffered so much. Just be generous and give it to your sister. Juliet gently pressed a piano chord and asked me cautiously, is it really okay, sister? Before I could nod, my father made a decision immediately. What's the big deal? If you like it, it's yours. Your sister won't mind, right, Isabella? In my previous life, Juliet was just like this. With her weak appearance, she stole my piano. I didn't even have the right to be angry. At that time, when I argued my case, my parents instead said that I was not sensible and was being stingy. They even locked me in my room for a whole day as punishment. Maybe it's true that the child who knows how to cry gets the candy. With just a few words of self-pity, Juliet got the piano. I don't know how to pretend to be weak and innocent, so I can only be regarded as the bad guy. They only care about whether Juliet is sad or not, and they don't care about how I feel when I have my beloved thing taken away. After a long time, I asked the question that I didn't have the chance to ask in my previous life. This is my birthday present. If she wants a piano, why don't you give her one on her own birthday? When they heard this, their eyebrows furrowed quickly. When will you stop giving us so much trouble? Do you know how much a piano costs? Do you think our money falls from the sky? You're still not satisfied even though the piano has already been bought. Can't you share it with Juliet? Look, what has Juliet said? Why are you being so unreasonable? I waited calmly for them to finish venting and then said slowly, okay, I understand. After that I turned around and went back to my room. The scolding behind me didn't stop, and I just felt exhausted. Look at how you've spoiled her. She's so vain at such a young age. Who is she showing her bad temper to? Are we in the wrong for providing for her food and clothing? Julian passed me by, holding a beautifully wrapped gift in his hand. He congratulated Juliet sweetly. Happy birthday, Sister Juliet. This is the gift I made for you in kindergarten. What a nice younger brother he is, always thinking about celebrating his sister's birthday. Even more ridiculously, my parents, who were crying poor to me today, threw a big party for Juliet's birthday a few months later. Juliet said that she had never really celebrated her birthday before, so my parents rented an entire floor of a hotel to throw her a birthday party, and even invited all her classmates and friends. Even the birthday cake was from a well-known online luxury brand. As for me, I was asked not to attend Juliet's birthday party before it even started because they thought my jealousy would ruin her party. That day, I watched calmly as Juliet, wearing a custom-made princess dress, went to her birthday party and even received another gift from my parents. I didn't argue with them anymore. Instead, I went back to my room quietly and read books and memorized words. I don't care about this family anymore. I just want to get good grades as soon as possible and stay as far away from them as I can. After the mock exam results came out, I got the first place in my grade. The school held a parents' meeting, and the teacher specifically asked my parents to attend so that they could share their educational experience with other parents. I was about to speak when Juliet came back and sat on the sofa, silently shedding tears. My mother rushed over to comfort her. She said a grieved lie, Mom, I didn't do well on the exam. This exam was really easy. Even my sister got the first place, but I messed it up. Mom, am I really stupid? Julian took a tissue and said in a babyish voice, Don't cry, Sister Juliet. I think Sister Juliet is better than Sister Isabella. My father comforted her, Don't be sad, Juliet. Isabella just got lucky this time. She always likes to play petty tricks. I don't know what she did this time. It's best that you work steadily. It's normal to make mistakes occasionally. My mother nodded in agreement and said gently, Yes, we just want you to be healthy. As for studying, we just need to do our best. Don't push yourself too hard. They always think they are fair and don't show favoritism to Juliet. But every time something like this happens, they always suppress me to please Juliet, as if I'm just a tool. If I were just an outsider, I might envy her for having such understanding parents. Unfortunately, there is no if-er. I stood in the room, listening to all this quietly, and couldn't help but sneer. Only then did Juliet stop crying and start to smile. She pretended to be worried and asked, Then will Mom and Dad think I'm not as good as my sister? Will they abandon me? My mother hugged her lovingly and soothed her. Silly child, what nonsense are you talking about? You will always be the treasure of our family. It's our blessing to have you. What does grades matter? Julian imitated his mother and patted Juliet on the shoulder, saying in a childish voice, I'll take care of you in the future, sister. Juliet was amused by his innocent words, wiped away her tears, and said softly, "Then will Mom and Dad go to the parents' meeting?" "Of course we will. Don't worry. You will always be our pride." I curled the corners of my mouth and walked out. As soon as I appeared, the atmosphere in the living room became quiet instantly. Juliet called me softly. I didn't even bother to give her a sideways glance. Looking at my parents, I asked calmly, "Which one of you is going to the parents' meeting at school?" I don't know what about this question made my father angry. He suddenly flew into a rage. "Who do you think you're talking to? You have no manners at all." My mother quickly stopped my father. "Isabella, we're going to the parents' meeting for Juliet." I asked, "Do you both need to go to the parents' meeting for her?" My father shouted at me when he heard this, "What's your attitude? We can go to the parents' meeting for whoever we want. It's not up to you to tell me what to do, you always rely on your petty tricks. I don't even know how you got that exam result this time. I'd be ashamed to go to the parents' meeting for you." This time, my mother didn't stop my father. I had heard the exact same words in my previous life, but I still didn't give up. But this time, I finally understood. There is no greater sorrow than a dead heart. This is exactly how I feel. In the blink of an eye, it was my birthday again. I admit that I still had a glimmer of hope. But when I got home from school, the house was empty. Just then, my mother called. It was a bit noisy on the other end of the line, as if some kind of activity was going on. "Isabella, since Juliet joined our family this year, our expenses are a bit tight. We still need to save money for Juliet's surgery, so we won't prepare a birthday present for you this year. We have something to do tonight and won't be coming back. I'll transfer you a red packet. Go and treat yourself to something nice." I heard Juliet's voice on the other end of the line, and my mother quickly hung up the phone. I opened my phone and checked. She transferred 88 yuan. An 88 yuan birthday blessing. That's nice. Fortunately, I'm not really 14 years old anymore, and I'm not afraid to stay home alone for the night. I cooked something simple for myself. When I took out my phone and was about to memorize words, I saw the post Juliet had shared on her social media. In the post, she was wearing a Harry Potter cosplay costume and smiling sweetly and brightly. Then I remembered that this was exactly what happened in my previous life. On my birthday, my parents took her to the newly opened Universal Studios. They didn't even remember it was my birthday until the day was almost over. At that time, I thought they were just busy with work, but it turned out they took Juliet out to play behind my back. I cried and made a scene that day, asking them why they were being so biased. As a result, Juliet was scared and cried by me. She thought I was being mean to her. My birthday turned into a criticism session of me. I sneered as I looked at the post. The four of them stood in front of Universal Studios and took a group photo with big smiles on their faces. Yes, they are the real family. There is no place for me in this family anymore. They even booked an internal hotel in Universal Studios. My 88 yuan seemed so insignificant compared to their expenses. They said they were short of money this year, but I think they were only stingy with me. After all, Juliet not only had a great time there, but she was also holding a peripheral doll that had been sold at a high price. It was the same in both lives, and it made me feel extremely disgusted. A few years later, I was admitted to a key high school, and finally, I didn't have to see Juliet anymore because her grades weren't good enough to get in. I directly applied to live on campus and didn't go home on weekends. Instead, I worked part-time outside to earn some living expenses. However, it wasn't long before the winter vacation started, and the school didn't allow students to stay. So I had to pack my luggage and go home. When I got home, I saw a harmonious and happy scene. It was as if all traces of me had been erased during the half year I was away. As soon as I got to the door, I heard the sound of the piano and Juliet singing along with the accompaniment in a rather decent way. I unlocked the door and didn't want to pay attention to them. I just wanted to go back to my room and rest. But when I got to the door of my room, I suddenly realized that the sound of the piano was actually coming from inside my room. I pushed the door open with a bang. Everyone inside turned to look at me. To my shock, all the things in my room were gone. And the piano that was originally placed in the living room had been moved into my bedroom. There was also a large portrait of Juliet hanging on the wall of the bedroom. My room had become Juliet's piano room. Juliet was sitting in front of the piano, wearing a long dress. The moment she saw me, a hint of darkness flashed in her eyes, which was hardly noticeable. This didn't happen in my previous life. Maybe it's because I didn't compete with Juliet this time that they became more and more excessive. My hand on the doorknob couldn't stop trembling, but my tone was unusually calm. Where should I sleep? Before my parents could react, Julian curled his lips and sneered, Sister Isabella still knows to come home. I thought you'd never come back. Since you haven't been back for so long, this room was empty anyway. It's making good use of it to let Sister Juliet practice the piano here. Before I could get angry, Juliet resorted to her usual trick of shedding tears again. Sister, it's all my fault. It's because I want to pursue an art major, so I need a piano room. I didn't know things would turn out like this. Sister, you can sleep in my room, and I'll just sleep in the piano room. After saying that, she couldn't stop coughing. Julian immediately shouted at me, Don't you think you're going too far, Isabella? With Sister Juliet's health like this, you still want her to sleep in the piano room. We had a great time as a family when you were away. Why do you have to make the whole family restless as soon as you come back? You're the one who's superfluous. To be a part of our family. How time flies. The little kid who used to go to kindergarten can now curse people. Facing these unjust accusations, I just found them ridiculous. I've lived 2 lifetimes, and in both lifetimes, I was forced to accept their favoritism towards Juliet while they ignored me, their own biological daughter. Listening to Julian's increasingly louder insults, I couldn't hold back any longer. I stepped forward and raised my hand, delivering a resounding slap. His still young face was slapped to one side by me. He covered his face in horror, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Everyone was stunned. My mother was the first to react. She pushed me away and looked at Julian's face with concern. My father flew into a rage and shouted at me, What's wrong with you, Isabella? You even hit your younger brother. I think you've wasted all your education. I think your brother is right. As soon as you come back, this family can't have peace. You won't learn your lesson unless you're given some punishment. Your pocket money will be stopped from now on. Julian couldn't wait to say, That's right. Don't give her any money in the future. It's better to give it to me and Sister Juliet. I sneered and retorted, I remember you guys have never given me pocket money from the beginning. Besides the tuition fees, which of the other expenses wasn't earned by myself through part-time jobs? Isn't it a bit too late to threaten me with this now? My parents were left speechless by my retort, and a trace of guilt appeared on their faces for a moment. Just as they were about to come forward to show concern for me, Juliet stumbled and pretended to faint. Their attention was once again drawn to her. My mother held her in her arms with a look of concern. Juliet looked at me pitifully and said, Sister, it's all my fault. I just wanted too much of Mom and Dad's love. Don't worry. I'll leave here right away and won't get in your way. I'm already very satisfied that I could get Mom and Dad's love in the past 2 years. As she spoke, she was about to get up and leave. My parents completely forgot about me and focused all their attention on her. They expressed their concern for her and told her not to have such thoughts, saying that she was just like their own daughter. Leaning in my mother's arms, the corner of her mouth curled up into a triumphant smile. I glanced at Juliet inferently and immediately turned around and went to the guest room. I didn't leave the room until the next evening. It was as if Juliet had timed it perfectly. She specifically waited for me to come out and then, in front of my parents, asked me to try the dishes she had made. This scene was exactly the same as in my previous life. On this day in my previous life, in order to apologize to me, she specially made a large bowl of dumplings with celery and shrimp filling. And everyone knew that I was allergic to seafood. But they didn't want to believe that Juliet had done it on purpose. They just thought it was an accident and even blamed me for being too picky. Even Julian taunted me sarcastically. Who do you think you are? Tried to harm you? Have you watched too many TV dramas? Sister Juliet just accidentally put the shrimp in. Can't you tell that you're allergic to seafood yourself? I think you're deliberately eating it to make Mom and Dad blame Sister Juliet. This time I looked at Juliet, who was bussying herself in the kitchen, and the corners of my mouth slightly raised. After a while, Juliet timidly placed the plate of dumplings in front of me. Sister, I was wrong yesterday. Can this plate of dumplings be my apology to you? Her tone was sincere. People who didn't know the inside story would inevitably be deceived by her. My mother chimed in, your sister has been busy for an afternoon for you. You have to try it no matter what. They always thought that the conflict between me and Juliet was just a petty squabble among children. Eating a plate of dumplings would solve all the problems, and they never realized what the real problem was. Seeing that I hadn't picked up my chopsticks, Juliet blushed and tears welled up in her eyes. Sister Juliet, ignore her. If she doesn't eat, I will. When Julian saw her tears, he couldn't sit still. He picked up a dumpling and put it in his mouth. It's delicious. It's shrimp filling. No wonder Sister Juliet is so good at cooking. I smiled and said, yes, it's shrimp filling. Have you forgotten that I'm allergic to seafood? As soon as I finished speaking, everyone fell silent, and even Julian realized something was wrong. When we were young, our parents took us to an island for a vacation. On the island, we could catch fish and crabs in the sea ourselves, so the dinner was naturally a seafood feast. At that time, I didn't want to eat and said I was allergic to seafood. But my aunt, who was with us, always thought I was being picky. In her opinion, being allergic just meant eating too little. If I ate more and developed immunity, I wouldn't be allergic anymore. So when my mother wasn't looking, she secretly asked the chef to make a plate of seafood dumplings. When I ate it, she said proudly, see, I told you it was okay. But the next second, I had shortness of breath, and hives appeared all over my body. I even went into shock on the way to the hospital. At that time, Julian would still speak up for me. He was so worried when he saw my condition that he cried and kept scolding my aunt for being a bad person. But ever since Juliet came, they all forgot about this. If I hadn't reminded them, they wouldn't even have remembered that I was allergic to seafood. My parents showed a trace of guilt on their faces when I asked them this. Juliet's tears immediately fell down in big drops. I'm sorry, sister. I really didn't meddle. I'm sorry. As she spoke, she ran outside. The silent atmosphere was instantly broken by her. My parents quickly put on their slippers and chased after her, holding her hand to stop her from going out. Don't be in a hurry, Juliet. How could this be your fault? You didn't know that Isabella can't eat seafood. Besides, she didn't even eat it. Isabella, what are you still standing there for? Come and comfort your sister. How ridiculous. If I hadn't discovered it in time, I'm afraid I would have gone into shock again. But they still want me to comfort someone who tried to harm me. I was so afraid of suffocating that I didn't want to stay with them any longer and turned around and went back to my room. Time passed quickly, and the college entrance examination finally ended. I was admitted to Stanford University as I had wished. My parents were very proud of this, and the number of times they scolded me decreased noticeably. Instead, they threw a big celebration for my college admission, showing off everywhere that I had achieved something. They even ignored Juliet a lot because of this. On the day of the college admission celebration, my parents were happily entertaining the guests. Just then, Julian rushed to the hotel in a hurry and told my parents that Juliet had fainted at home. My parents immediately panicked, left me and the guests behind, and rushed home. Fortunately, I knew Juliet well enough and had already expected that she would pull such a stunt on my college admission celebration. So this sudden situation didn't affect me at all. Instead, I entertained the guests in an orderly manner. Ethan's mother was particularly enthusiastic towards me. She used to be my mother's college alumni. She got pregnant during college, dropped out, and gave birth to Ethan. She also arranged a baby marriage for us. Ethan and I were childhood sweethearts, and he had always taken good care of me. Especially when we were young, he would always bring me the best things. He once said in a babyish voice that I must marry him when I grew up. In my previous life, Juliet had stolen all of my family's love, and I pinned all my hopes on Ethan. But unexpectedly, he had already developed feelings for Juliet secretly. He even pretended to be engaged to me in order to please Juliet and then revealed at the engagement banquet that his true love was Juliet. I stood on the stage like a clown, watching them hug and kiss. Ethan's mother scolded me for fraudulently getting engaged. I thought my parents would protect me and severely reprimand that couple. But in fact, my parents had long known about their affair and even helped them cover it up. I looked at Ethan's eager mother and smiled faintly. Auntie, I'm going to the hospital to see my younger sister. In order to please me, she naturally followed along. When we arrived at the hospital, we saw a group of people gathered around Juliet's hospital bed. She weakly held Ethan's hand and murmured, "Mom and Dad, I made you worry. I just had a bit of anemia for a while. It's okay. Today, my sister is the main character. Don't delay celebrating for her." After that she coughed twice, looking even more delicate and weak. "We can celebrate for Isabella at any time. But for you, how can I not worry?" My mother's distress was palpable. "It's okay, Antone. I'll stay here and take care of Juliet." Ethan soothed gently, looking at Juliet with deep affection on his face. My mother completely forgot that Ethan and I had an engagement. Instead, she looked gratified. "Both you and Juliet are good kids. Auntie thinks you're a good match." Ethan held Juliet in his arms, and ignoring the eyes of others, gently kissed her on the cheek. At this moment, Ethan's mother and I just arrived. Ethan's mother was furious and shouted, "Ethan, what are you doing? Get away from her." In my previous life, my college entrance examination results were not ideal, so Ethan's mother naturally looked down on me. She let Ethan do as he pleased and marry whoever he wanted. But in this life, I was admitted to Stanford University, while Juliet only got into a third-tier art college. It's obvious to anyone which one of us is more outstanding. When Ethan saw me, he didn't show the slightest bit of guilt. He said calmly, "Mom, the baby marriage was decided by you privately. Now I want to marry Juliet instead." He sized me up, his eyes full of disdain. This expression was completely different from the boy who once said he would protect me and marry me. "Isabella, you have too many thoughts and are too emotional. I won't like you. I only like someone as gentle and magnanimous as Juliet. If you ever try to bully her again just because she has a good temper, you'd better ask me first if I'll allow it." Ethan's mother quickly interjected and scolded, "You brat, what nonsense are you talking? When you were a child, you said you wanted to marry Isabella yourself, so we arranged the baby marriage for you too." Ethan snorted coldly, "What does a child know about what's good or bad?" Indeed, children don't know what's good or bad, which is why I mistook Ethan for a treasure. Ethan's mother looked at him with a look of disappointment for his failure to live up to her expectations and dragged Ethan away. At this moment, there were only the 4 members of their family and me left in the room. I repeated the question I asked in my previous life again, "You knew about their affair a long time ago, didn't you?" My mother was too embarrassed to look at me. "Isabella, why do you speak so harshly? Matters of the heart aren't just black and white. Your engagement with Ethan was just something you kids said casually when you didn't know any better. Now that he and your sister Juliet truly love each other, can't you just let them be?" Julian interrupted immediately. I looked at this younger brother whom I had doted on so much before and felt a sore ache twitching at the corners of my eyes. When we were young, our parents were busy with work. After school, I would stand in front of a stove taller than me and cook for him. When he was bullied by his classmates, I went straight to his kindergarten to stand up for him. Whenever I got my pocket money, I would always set aside a part to buy him toys. Even when he had a fever, I stayed up all night watching over him, not daring to sleep. He used to say that I was the best sister in the world. Now, everything is different. I clenched my fists tightly, holding back the tears that were welling up in my eyes and refusing to let them fall. I can let them be, but I have a condition. Julia didn't expect me to be so straightforward and showed a trace of doubt on her face. Sister, are ye serious? I ignored her and looked steadily at my parents. This should be the last time I call them Dad and Mom. My father nodded, gratified. Lie, Isabella, your parents are very happy that you can be so sensible. Not to mention one condition, we'll agree to 100 of them for you. I smiled and said calmly. It's very simple. I want to move my household registration out and sever all relations with you. From now on, we'll never have any contact with each other again. My mother was stunned, and then she flew into a rage. Isabella, what on earth are you fussing about? Ethan just likes Juliet. Don't you understand that a forced relationship won't be sweet? You're actually using this to threaten your parents. I think you've really been spoiled. I'm very disappointed in you. Even now, they still don't know what the problem is. Fussing? When have I ever fussed? When you forcefully brought back a younger sister for me, did I make a fuss? When you gave my birthday present to her, did I make a fuss? When she made me seafood dumplings and almost caused me to die from an allergic reaction, did I make a fuss? When you took her to Universal Studios on my birthday and only gave me 88 yuan, did I make a fuss? When you turned my room into her piano room, did I make a fuss? My nose stung and I held back my tears as I accused them of their wrongdoings one by one. I've been so tolerant, and you still think I'm not sensible and are disappointed in me. I laughed coldly and looked at their stunned faces. I'm the one who's disappointed in you. I feel sorry for having such parents. If I go out with Juliet, who would believe that I'm the biological daughter of the Isabella family? My mother's face was extremely complicated and she quickly denied it. Isabella, how could you think of Mom like this? Mom loves you the most. Mom gave birth to you with so much hardship. How could I not love you? I interrupted her. If I could choose, I would rather have never been born in this world. If I had known before I was born that I would suffer so much in this life, I would rather have never been born. My mother covered her mouth with a trembling hand. I'm your mother. My father had a solemn expression, and Julian didn't dare to say a word. You want me to let them be? Fine, I promise you. But I hope you can also agree to my condition. I hope I can get my own household registration book in 3 days. As for the money you spent raising me over the years, I'll pay it back to you in full once I get my scholarship. My father wanted to persuade me, but I interrupted him immediately. If you want to be my enemy, then I'll accompany you. He was left speechless by me and looked dejected. After saying these words, I turned around and left the hospital room. A few days later, my new household registration book arrived as promised, and there was only my name on it. I finally got rid of my original family and the source of all my pain. I'm free. Under the sunlight, I strolled around the park, looking at the pleasant scenery and feeling an unprecedented sense of comfort. On the day Ethan and Juliet got married, I heard that no one from the Isabella family attended. I bribed the wedding host and made a PPT about Ethan being an illegitimate child and played it in front of all the guests at the wedding. The two of them lost all their face. What's more, someone even took a video of the scene that day and posted it online. Everyone knew that they were a laughingstock. Later, I heard that not long after they got married, Juliet became seriously ill. Instead of taking care of her, Ethan started looking for a new marriage partner. Now that I think about it, Ethan's family just wanted a childbearing tool to seize his father's family property. Naturally, the seriously ill Juliet had no more use value and was abandoned to fend for herself. Juliet contacted me and wanted to see me one last time, and I happily agreed to meet her. She was lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to the nutrient solution, looking haggard and completely different from her delicate appearance in the past. Isabella, are you very proud? Mom and Dad don't want me anymore, and even Ethan avoids me like the plague. She gasped for breath with each word she said, and her spirits were extremely poor. But those eyes still stared at me intently, filled with indescribable jealousy. Isabella, why do you have such a good life? Why do you have a pair of parents who love you and a younger brother who protects you, while my parents wanted to sell me to a 60-year-old man for the bride price when I was 18. They deserve to die. I looked at her quietly and said, then you shouldn't have sacrificed me to make your life better. Think about what you've done now. You deliberately made me seafood dumplings and wanted to kill me. Don't you feel guilty? You're reaping what you've sown now. I didn't say anything more and turned to leave. When I reached the door, I suddenly remembered something and said to her with a smile, it's okay. You won't be alone when you leave. Not long after, Juliet died. As for Ethan, he finally married a girl who was pregnant with a boy as he wished. It is said that he was selecting a concubine, and only those who were pregnant with a boy were allowed to marry into his family. The next time I met him was when I was admitted to the tax bureau and came to his company to conduct a tax audit. The accounts of his company were full of loopholes, and he even signed a yin-yang contract. As the legal representative, he went to prison as expected. Coupled with his previous behavior of selecting a concubine, he was sentenced to several years after multiple crimes were combined for punishment. I heard that he kept asking to see me, but I ignored him. After all, I'm living a happy and fulfilling life now. I'm more than comfortable living alone. Why should I meet a loser and make myself unhappy? At the wedding, my fiancé tore my wedding dress apart in public and pushed me to the ground. He looked down at me, his voice a mix of extreme restraint and satisfaction. Ava, do you know what it feels like to be insulted with money? How dare you even dream of marrying me just because of you? There was thunderous applause from the audience. The door opened, and Olivia, wearing a magnificent wedding dress, walked in slowly. At that moment, I realized that the bride today wasn't me after all. She had a cold expression on her face, stepped hard on my hand, and walked towards James. Love can't be stolen. Ava, your retribution has come. The guests had teasing looks on their faces, and then the police rushed in and took my parents away. I finally understood that the fiancé I had supported with all my might had always hated me. He had forgotten that he was originally just the son of a driver. After lying low for many years, he nibbled away at my family's company and framed my parents to put them in prison, also that he could openly marry his first love today. That scheming woman from the slums like him, Olivia. I was held down by his bodyguards and was forced to witness their happiness with tears and blood. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to my freshman year of college. In the classroom, James pulled Olivia, who had a stubborn expression on her face, in front of me and ordered, from now on, you transfer 50,000 yuan to this card every month as Olivia's living expenses. At this time, James was wearing a washed-out and cheap t-shirt, but his face had the arrogance and hubris he had after achieving success in the previous life. I suddenly realized that he had also been reborn. Very well. Then, James, in this life, you can go to hell with your eyes wide open. Wake up. Amidst an impatient urging voice, I opened my eyes and saw James standing in front of me with a furrowed brow. 10 whole years of deception and betrayal. I couldn't help but stand up abruptly, wanting to strangle him. But I felt a dizzy spell and fell back onto the chair again. James didn't seem to understand why I was so emotional. He snorted disapprovingly and threw a piece of paper on the table in front of me. This is Olivia's bank card number. From now on, you transfer 50,000 yuan to her on time every month as her living expenses. His tone carried an unyielding order. But hadn't he already taken everything from me long ago? Why? After blurting out the question, I suddenly realized that the James in front of me was different from usual. The high-end custom-made suit he used to wear had actually turned into a cheap and tattered t-shirt. You know, James hated it the most when someone mentioned his humble and poor past. Clothes worth less than 6 figures could never appear on him again. If I had to say what was common between the him in front of me and the person in my memory, it was probably only the arrogance on his face. I looked around. I found myself in the classroom during my college days. Rubbing my eyes, I met James's slightly immature face and finally realized that I had been reborn. At this time, James had completely lost the inferiority complex and timidity he had when we first met. He gave a cold snort at me and pointed at the Hermes bag in my drawer. You brought this thing to school. Have you considered Olivia's feelings? Since you like to show off your wealth, why not go to the extreme? Sponsoring an excellent student with good character and academic performance is more meaningful than buying these useless things, isn't it? What do you think, Ava? James's mouth opened and closed, and his tone was full of unyielding provocation. I just felt extremely disgusted. At the same time, I also realized that he, like me, had been reborn. Because the inexperienced James in his freshman year not only didn't recognize her mess, but also didn't dare to talk to me like this at all. Looking at his arrogant appearance, I hated myself even more for having fallen for such a sinister and ungrateful wretch in the previous life, and I had been ruined by him. He obviously didn't know that at this moment, I no longer had the slightest bit of affection for him. Seeing that I didn't speak, James stuck out his neck, wanting to embarrass me. His tone carried a hint of punishment. Aren't you getting 60,000 yuan as living expenses every month? After giving 50,000 yuan to Olivia, I want to see what else you can use to show off. Huh. I stood up. Although I was half a head shorter than him, I suddenly picked up the chair and smashed it on his chattering mouth. James covered his mouth in pain and let out a scream. Looking at the blood on his hand, James opened his eyes wide and asked me in disbelief, "Are you crazy?" But he was slurring his words because of my blow, and with his swollen mouth, he looked ridiculous and funny. I looked at him coldly. It's you who's crazy, James. 50,000 yuan. You really have the nerve to ask for it. Perhaps because he hadn't been insulted by anyone for many years in his superior position, James obviously couldn't accept that someone dared to treat him like this. I saw him take a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Ava, you'd better kneel down and apologize to me immediately, otherwise." I sneered and provoked. Otherwise what? James flew into a rage and pointed at me, his voice suddenly rising. Otherwise, 10 years from now, I will definitely make your family fall apart and be ruined. I clenched my fists, wondering whether it would be better to hit his left cheek or his right cheek first. An untimely cry broke this brief silence. Olivia, what's wrong with you? Unlike his hatred for me, James's eyes were full of tenderness and pity when he looked at her. Until I died in the previous life, I still didn't understand. Why did James hate me, the one who had given everything to lift him up to a high position, to the bone, but regarded Olivia Lotus Flower who only knew how to take as the apple of his eye? Now that I think about it, he might really just be very despicable. Olivia was crying with a piteous look. James, I'm not worth you doing this for me. Ava's family is rich and powerful. If you provoke her, she will definitely not let you go. Upon hearing this, James immediately patted her back to soothe her. Olivia, don't cry. Your eyes will be red if you cry, and you won't be beautiful. Believe me, you are worth it. 10 years from now, I will definitely give you the best things in the world. Then he turned around, glared at me, and said harshly, Ava, did you bully Olivia in the dormitory? Seeing that she had someone to back her up, Olivia buried her head and tears streamed down like rain. She really looked as if she had suffered a great grievance. James angrily grabbed my collar and pointed at Olivia, shouting at me, apologize. I'm asking you to apologize to her. I couldn't help but roll my eyes and thought to myself that James really didn't learn his lesson. Then I grabbed the compass on the table and stabbed it into the hand that was gripping my collar. James let go of his hand in pain and let out a deafening scream. I stared at Olivia, whose face turned pale with fright and who forgot to shed tears for a moment. Come on, tell everyone how I bullied you in the dormitory. Olivia bit her lip and only shed tears without speaking. In the previous life, I was framed as a bully by her like this. But this time, I'm not going to let it go easily. I asked. Do you think that when I saw you didn't have money to eat and secretly recharged your meal card, I insulted your personality? Olivia shook her head desperately and didn't speak. I continued to ask. Or do you think that when I saw you couldn't afford skin care products and gave you the high-end products I bought, pretending they were free gifts, I made you lose face? Olivia still didn't speak and covered her face, crying and sobbing. Of course, I wouldn't let her go like this. Or do you think that when your mother was sick and didn't have money to see a doctor, and you could do nothing but cry, I shouldn't have asked the driver to pick up your mother and take her to the hospital and also paid the medical expenses for her? Olivia changed from quietly shedding tears to lying on the table and wailing. I bent down and shouted into her ear. Speak. What exactly did I do to let you down? Olivia raised her head resentfully, with a crying voice full of collapse. Don't think I don't know that everything you did was because Brother James asked you to do it. You're just an errand runner. Why do you still pretend to be a savior? Ava, I know you just want to steal Brother James. Your heart is so dirty. After saying that, Olivia covered her face and ran away. James, whose hand I had stabbed a hole in, finally recovered from the pain and chased after Olivia, who had run out of the classroom. He didn't forget to turn back and warn me. Ava, your affection only makes me feel disgusted. Don't dream. I will never like you in my life. It's a pity that James ran so fast that he didn't get to see how I was almost sickened to the point of vomiting by his narcissism. Finally, it was time to finish school. As soon as I reached the school gate, I noticed that the driver who came today wasn't Henry, who usually drove me. Instead, it was James's father, William. When he saw me, there was not the slightest bit of politeness on his face. Even after I got into the car, he didn't even lift his eyelids. I suddenly realized that in my previous life, I had been far too tolerant of this father-son pair. Because I liked James, I was also extremely kind to William. He received a driver's salary while working in my house, but in fact, he hardly had to do any work. It was just that there were so many people in the house who needed the car that when they were too busy, he would step in for a while. And at this moment he was sitting in the driver's seat, humming a song with an air of calm. I frowned and asked him, "Why aren't we leaving yet?" Unexpectedly, even though I asked, he just used his little finger to pick his ear and then casually flicked it out of the car window, saying indifferently, "Henry is on sick leave today. I'm not here to pick you up. Get out of the car." At the same time, James, holding Olivia, whose eyes were red from crying, walked over from the school gate. He forcefully pulled open my car door, not caring at all about the glances of our classmates passing by, and his face was full of mockery. Ava. Would you die if you didn't pester me for a day? You're really like a ghost that won't leave. Get out of the car right now. Olivia's mother is in a bad condition in the hospital, and I have to take her to visit immediately. If it delays Auntie's illness, I'll take your life. Take my life? But now when I look at him, he's no different from a clown. Taking out my phone, I dialed the butler, Nathaniel. Now, fire William for me immediately. If he doesn't return the car to me within 10 minutes, call the police. Nathaniel on the other end of the phone hesitated for a moment. Yes, miss. As if he didn't hear what I said, James suddenly yanked me out of the car, then helped Olivia into the car. Leaning on the open car door, he mocked. Stop acting, Ava. If you really dare to fire my dad, I swear I'll never see you again in my life. The surrounding classmates started to talk when they saw this. Tell me, what exactly is James's background that can make Ava stick to him like a love-struck puppy all day long? I'm starting to wonder if Ava is really a wealthy young lady. Why doesn't she have her own car and just keeps hitching rides with James every day? She even refuses to leave when she's kicked out. Olivia is so lucky to have such a handsome and wealthy James protecting her. I'm so jealous. The words of the classmates made a trace of pride flash across Olivia's pale face. She quickly hit her edge and put on that innocent and vulnerable expression again. Ava, please move aside. The classmates are all watching. Although I really want to plead for you, Brother James really hates you. Can you stop pestering him? Looking at her, I suddenly felt a bit sorry for her. Olivia. Don't you really think that James is some mysterious rich second generation? As soon as I finished speaking, James was on high alert, and he gritted his teeth and warned me. Shut up, Ava, if you dare to say anything more in front of Olivia, I will never forgive you. James slammed the car door shut, not giving me a chance to speak anymore. Yes, in the previous life, when James first reunited with Olivia, Olivia simply ignored him. She was even afraid that others would find out from James that she also came from the slums. Later, when James saw that she was not doing well, he begged me to help her. He then went to tell her that I was following his instructions to give her those things. And at that time, James had nothing. For my money, he pretended to love me and endured everything. He didn't defend Olivia so desperately like he does now. So Olivia thought that after James left the slums, he suddenly became rich. Then she would pretend to be the scheming woman that James loved the most, see me as an enemy, and make things difficult for me everywhere. All for the day when she could beat me and marry into a wealthy family. But her dream was about to be shattered soon. Through the car window, I saw William in the driver's seat answer the phone. He suddenly straightened his body and started shouting and arguing about something. I knew that the butler was informing him of his dismissal. Today, I want to see if William has the guts not to return the car to me. James impatiently urged in the car, "Dad, let's go quickly." But William gave him a fierce glare, got out of the driver's seat, sized me up standing by the roadside. Then he opened the rear car door, dragged James out, and swung his arm to give him a hard slap. "Hurry up and apologize to Miss Ava." James's eyes immediately turned red. "Dad, you hit me?" Then he turned around, raised his arm and pointed at me, his face twisted with anger. "Just for her, you hit me? Are you crazy?" William was so angry that he was panting heavily. James, as if he couldn't see it, took his anger out on me. "Ava, I'll put this slap on your account. If it weren't for the urgent situation now and I had to send Olivia to the hospital immediately, I would never let you off for what you did to me today. Get lost now." Olivia's crying in the car got louder and louder. She kept urging James to leave quickly. There was a strange change in William's eyes. He pulled James over and whispered a few words to him. James gave me several hateful looks, gritted his teeth, and nodded at his father. Then he went to coax Olivia out of the car. Olivia was crying so hard as if she had lost her mother and almost fainted. It was only with James's persistence that she reluctantly got out of the car. William changed his attitude completely and humbly bent down to open the car door for me. "Miss Ava, I'm really sorry about what happened just now. Please get in the car." On the other hand, James had already hailed a taxi for Olivia and sent her away. My heart tightened. The more adaptable and flexible a person is, the greater their ambition. In the previous life, everything James did couldn't have been done without William's final advice and planning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fallen into the love trap of my own imagination. Now that I've been reborn, I can see the undercurrent in William's eyes, so I refused him. No need for me to get in the car. The butler has already arranged for another car to pick me up. Also, I'm not joking. You still have 8 minutes to return the car. After saying that, I didn't give him another chance and turned around to leave. The next second, my arm was roughly grabbed, and then I lost my balance and was forcefully pressed into the car. James bent down and got into the car after me, quickly locking the car door. "Ava, I know you like me a lot, but the way you were jealous today really wasn't nice." Then he reached out and snatched the phone from my bag. While starting the car, William called the butler. "Yes, that's right. Miss Ava is having a tantrum with my James. They've made up now and are both in the car. Don't worry." I shouted loudly, and James quickly covered my mouth with his hand. He deliberately said to the butler on the other end of the phone, "Ava, don't be angry. It's all my fault." I bit his palm hard and he was in so much pain that he almost cried out. James held his breath until his father finished the call with the butler before he let go of his hand. Instantly I felt extremely disgusted again. Perhaps he sensed the look of disgust in my eyes. At this moment, James stopped pretending. He firmly choked my neck. "Ava, do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're rich? Today, I will definitely make you pay the price." He was choking me so hard that I struggled desperately, and my vision became a bit blurry. William turned up the volume of the music and started humming along, swaying his head. The feeling of suffocation made my consciousness a bit hazy. When I opened my eyes again, I had been taken into a small damp basement room by them. There were leftover instant noodles on the yellowed and old tea table, emitting a foul smell. When James saw that I had woken up, he handed me his water cup. "Have a drink of water." I really don't understand why I had to fall in love with him in the previous life. He seemed to catch the look of disgust in my eyes and sneered, making a TSK sound, then put down the cup. "James, you're committing illegal detention. Let me go right away." He and his father exchanged a smile. "I'm not tying you up. You're the one who refused to leave, aren't you?" James then took out a bunch of handwritten letters and my lost diary from the bookcase. Only then did I suddenly remember that it was him who stole my diary. He dragged over a chair, and the legs of the chair made an ear-piercing and unpleasant sound as they scraped across the floor. "Let me read you the diary you wrote." Those feelings of liking and admiration for me between the lines. James sat leisurely on the chair by the door and crossed his legs. "Don't read it. I really didn't want to hear a single word of it. The humiliating and foolish past. My young love was only based on appearance. At that time, I simply didn't have the ability to judge whether a person was good or bad." He curled the corners of his mouth into a smile and said narcissistically with emotion. "At the age of 18 or 19, I was of course very handsome. I can understand your liking for me. But the first time I opened the diary, you still made me feel disgusted. In fact, Ava, in my heart, you don't deserve to be compared with Olivia at all. But I still treated you gently. Do you know why?" Just as I was about to retort, I suddenly noticed a pair of scissors on the table that was stained with yellow oil stains. So I pretended to move towards it to get the water cup while diverting their attention. "I know. You still have some feelings for me, although it's far less than for her." William lowered his head, smiled, and shook his head, seemingly very proud of his son's charm. James didn't notice my actions either and pretended to be affectionate. "I feel indebted to Olivia. From now on, you transfer 50,000 yuan to her card every month as a way to make up for my guilt in my heart. In this way, maybe I can try to accept you gradually. Give it 5 years. I'll give you 5 years to show your worth. After 5 years, I'll marry you." James's calculating expression was almost palpable. 5 years? He probably thought that because he had the memories of the previous life, he could take everything from my family in just 5 years. William knocked on the table in dissatisfaction. James immediately understood and slowly walked towards me, forcing me step by step towards the corner of the wall. I tightly grasped the scissors behind my back. He propped one hand on the wall and used the other hand to try to unbutton my clothes. The hot air of his breath sprayed against my ear, and he said in an oily voice, "You were really not good today. How could you fire your future father-in-law? Transfer 2 million yuan to him to soothe his anger, okay? Also Ava, you've been longing for me for a long time, right? Today, I'll satisfy you. From now on, you'll be mine. But you're not allowed to tell anyone, especially Olivia. Once you become mine, you have to abide by the rules of our James family. Remember to be filial to the elders, and you must give me enough face when we're outside. Do you understand? Dream on." I quickly took out the scissors and pressed them against his neck. The dull tip of the scissors didn't seem to pose much of a threat, so I pressed a little harder. He was a bit stunned, and there was more disbelief in his eyes. "Ava, are you crazy? Olivia is just my sister. Your jealousy is really too strong. How can I dare to marry you like this?" It was ridiculous. With the knife already at his neck, James still just thought I was jealous. When William saw that his son was in danger and was about to pounce forward, I immediately pressed the scissors against James's neck and shouted at him, "If you take one more step forward, you'll be collecting your son's body." Blood seeped out. James's face turned pale with fright. "Ava, you, don't be impulsive, the knife is piercing my skin, take it away quickly." I pushed him towards the door, and he also stepped back repeatedly. When I got outside, I realized that this was the slum where William had lived with James, before he came to work for my family. In the previous life, I had felt so sorry for James, because he had once lived here. But now I just wanted to plunge the scissors in my hand into his neck and let him rot here. But my reason told me not to do that. I kept holding the scissors against him and walked outside. The pedestrians passing by in the alley all looked at us with strange eyes. Some people thought James was the victim and shouted that they were going to call the police. William immediately stopped them. He forced an ugly smile on his old face and told everyone that James and I were just a young couple having a quarrel. After confirming my safety, I plunged the scissors into James's shoulder. Accompanied by his scream, I turned and ran without looking back. James, your good days are over. The small path wound around. I had fallen several times before I reached the street and hailed a taxi. When I got back to the villa, Nathaniel saw my bleeding knee and rushed up in a panic. Miss, what happened to you? Nathaniel. I looked at him steadily, trying to find some flaws on his face. Why did you let William make excuses and even let him take me away when I clearly said I wanted him to return the car? For many years, this was the first time I didn't call him Nathaniel. He raised his head, ignoring my question. He looked away from my injured knee, and the worry on his face turned into anger. Miss, do you mean that the father and son, William and James, kidnapped you? I nodded. He immediately took out his phone and was about to call the police. Damn it. I've long known that these two father and son are no good. How could I have let them take you away? I thought it would be too easy on them to just let them go to jail like this. I stopped Nathaniel. I didn't manage to do anything to me, and there's no proof even if we call the police. On the contrary, I stabbed James with a pair of scissors. Hearing me say this, a trace of barely noticeable relief flashed across Nathaniel's face. Miss, you've finally learned to protect yourself. James really doesn't deserve your love. I know, Nathaniel. Don't worry. Fire William. From now on, these two father and son are not allowed to appear in my house again. Perhaps because I had been deeply betrayed, I no longer trusted the people around me so much. But Nathaniel was the one who had watched me grow up since I was a child. Before I was reborn, I regarded James as my life. Any servant in the house who didn't listen to him would be fired by me. No wonder Nathaniel had believed James's words so much. I heard that William and James had made a big scene at the gate of the villa for a long time. They swaggered in and were thrown out unceremoniously by the security guards. William was crying and sniffling, shouting that he had worked hard and made great contributions, saying that I couldn't just fire him like this. He was clearly an old trickster who always wanted to take advantage, but he stubbornly regarded himself as a great general with remarkable military achievements. And James was even more shameless in blaming me. Like an antique that had just emerged from the ground, he said I was jealous. He said that I was so cruel to him and his father because I didn't have the capacity to tolerate others and couldn't stand his kindness to Olivia, his sister. He demanded that I immediately get out and give him an explanation. Unfortunately, the villa was so big that I couldn't even hear his howls. He and William were taken away by the police for disturbing the public, and I learned about these things through the butler's report. Nathaniel asked me cautiously. Miss, will you be angry that I called the police and had the father and son of the James family taken away? I smiled slightly. Of course not. Early the next morning, I went to school for classes on time. And James, accompanied by Olivia who was wearing white clothes, with her hair flowing loose and her eyes red from crying, walked up to me. I was just about to ask what kind of tricks they were going to play this time. Suddenly, Olivia burst into heart-rending sobs. Ava, are you satisfied with what you've done to me? I never wanted to steal Brother James from you. It's just that he doesn't like you. Why don't you understand? You took the money that Brother James gave me and stopped paying for my mother's medical expenses. How could you be so vicious? I only have one mother. Looking at Olivia's heaving sobs as she almost fainted. Suddenly, the image of that mean-looking old woman who had appeared at James and Olivia's wedding in the previous life flashed through my mind. She was Olivia's mother who had been able to recover from her illness and be discharged from the hospital with my financial support. That old woman, having been saved, didn't show the slightest gratitude to me. Instead, after I walked out of James and Olivia's wedding in a state of despair, she couldn't wait to find some gangsters to rape me, for fear that I might have the slightest chance of stealing her wealthy son-in-law. Thinking of this and looking at Olivia's sorrowful face, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Huh, is your mother dead? Woo woo woo. Olivia looked at me with a shocked expression on her face, and then cried and threw herself into James's arms. Brother James, she's trying to force me and my mother to death. Can you stop protecting her? Please ask her to hand over the money for my mother's life-saving treatment, okay? Please. Looking at her painful and artificial appearance, I just felt it was a pity that that old hag wasn't dead yet. But fortunately, as long as I insist on not giving her the money, that evil old woman will probably really be on the verge of death soon. I was happily looking forward to getting my revenge, but James's hand had already reached in front of me, and he ordered me. Hand over the money I gave you. Obviously, at this moment, James had deeply immersed himself in the dream he had woven and completely forgotten his own identity. I didn't mind helping him come to his senses. Seeing me pick up the compass again, James immediately withdrew his hand. What? Do you want to renege on your debt? He spoke very quickly, mixed with a bit of anger. I looked at him playfully. James, when did you ever give me money? Your father is just a dismissed driver of my family. It's already bad enough that he ate, wore and lived off me. Now he wants to ride roughshod over me? James still couldn't react, but Olivia got angry. Taking me by surprise, she pouted and pushed me hard. What are you talking nonsense about? Brother James's father is a self-made big boss. How could he be a driver for your family? After saying that, she turned around and looked at James expectantly. Right, James. You can't be soft-hearted and forgive this bad woman, Ava, who not only cheated your money but also smeared you. James immediately chimed in, but seeing my attitude towards him do a complete 180-degree turn, he stuttered guiltily. Of course. Ava, hand over the money quickly, or I'll. Olivia thought James couldn't bear to hurt me, so she eagerly stood in front of him, sticking out her neck and looking at me. Or we'll call the police and have you arrested. Olivia's smug expression froze the moment her phone rang. The cheap phone clearly transmitted the voice on the other end of the line to my ears. The nurse on the other end shouted anxiously. Where are you? Is the surgical fee ready? Your mother must have the operation immediately, or she'll be in danger of losing her life. Olivia hung up the phone. Without bothering to argue with me anymore, she knelt down in front of me with a thud. Ava, this is a matter of life and death. Please hand over the money quickly to save my mother. But I just coldly shook off the calf that she was holding tightly and clearly spat out a word, Nandamata. Helpless, Olivia looked at James for help. James gritted his teeth, pulled her up, and said firmly. Go to the hospital quickly. I'll send the surgical fee for Auntie over soon. Olivia gave me a resentful look and ran away. And James grabbed my hand. Come with me. James looked at me affectionately for the first time. Ava, I must have been too harsh on you these days, making you sad, right? I apologize to you. But you also saw that Olivia's mother is dying. You can't just stand by and watch her die. I swear I have nothing with Olivia. She's just my sister. This is a matter of life and death. Can you be reasonable? Have you forgotten? I said I would marry you in 5 years, and I will definitely keep my word. Now, be a good girl and give me the money. Looking into his eyes, which were feigning affection, I laughed out loud. James. Do you want money? Do you want me to be completely submissive to you? Keep deceiving me so that your first love can live a good life without having to worry about food and drink? James, you're dreaming. I laughed until tears came to my eyes. And his breathing became rapid. You were also reborn. James stepped back in disbelief. Nada. It's impossible. God gave me a chance to be reborn. It must have heard my prayers and let me come back to make up for Olivia's years of waiting for no reason in the previous life. This time, I've sworn to let her live a good life earlier, and you? James, like a madman, pointed at me furiously and said, "You bitch, why were you reborn?" I was too lazy to watch him go crazy and went back to the classroom alone. That day, I didn't see James again. The next day, I heard that Olivia's mother had passed away despite treatment. But I still felt it wasn't enough. I sent her a series of evidence on her phone, proving that James was really just the child of my family's servant. Proving that all her scheming and tricks were a complete joke in front of me. After class, I was getting ready to go home as usual. As soon as I walked out of the school gate, Olivia, dressed in morning clothes, rushed towards me. "Ava, my mother is dead." No, Olivia couldn't accept my indifference and roared hysterically at me. "It's all because of you. My mother is dead, I don't care. You have to go to my mother's grave with me and kowtow to apologize to her." I was originally going to shake her off, but I suddenly realized that things might not be that simple. I secretly turned on the positioning function of my watch, pressed the one-click alarm button, and then calmly let her drag me along. Olivia took me to get into a car parked by the roadside. Although the driver was wearing a hat and a mask, I recognized him at a glance as James's father, William. The smell of the perfume on him. It was the perfume I had customized 3 years ago and was going to give to my father. But at that time, I was so infatuated with James that I also tried my best to please William. Coupled with the fact that there was no trace of the pain of losing her mother on Olivia's face, only anticipation and greed were left. I quietly took out my phone, and Olivia, with sharp eyes, snatched it away. "What are you doing?" I pretended to be calm and waved my hand, praying that the police would catch up quickly. Although I was taking a risk, I just hoped that the James family would bring about their own downfall. I didn't want to die. William drove all the way to the seaside, and the car stopped steadily. I saw James was frantically tying a rope to a big rock by the shore. Just as I thought something was wrong and was about to slip away, he grinned and called Olivia to come over quickly. Olivia trotted over. "Brother James, didn't you say that as long as I brought Ava here, you would make me Mrs. James and let me enjoy glory and wealth for the rest of my life, and never let me be wronged again?" James smiled at her. When she got close, he suddenly smashed her head with the stone hidden behind his back. Olivia fell to the ground with a cry and asked weakly, "Why?" James stroked her affectionately. "Olivia, I'm the chosen one. If I die, I'll be reborn. I was careless in this life. I didn't expect that this bitch, Ava, was also reborn. You go first, and I'll follow soon. In the next life, I will definitely let you become Mrs. James early." After saying that, ignoring Olivia's pleas, James tied her to the stone and pushed her into the sea. This unexpected turn of events left William stunned. It wasn't until Olivia was pushed into the sea by him and the waves splashed up that William finally came to his senses and rushed over, grabbing James's collar. "Are you crazy? Is this the way you said you could make me live a good life? Don't tell me you want me to die and be reborn too?" Of course. James widened his eyes and was about to use the same trick again, but William noticed the stone in his hand that he was going to smash at him. The two of them got into a fight. James was bloodthirsty. I took the opportunity to slip away. The sound of police sirens rang out. The moment William turned his head, James pushed him into the sea. He ran towards me quickly, and the sea breeze blew his voice away. "Ava, don't be afraid. Let's start over." The arriving police officer stopped him. I was finally rescued. James killed 2 people, but his crazy remarks about being reborn led to his diagnosis of mental illness, which instead saved his life. But I will have people keep a close eye on him in the mental hospital. For the rest of his life, he won't have a single good day. But it's different for me. I'm beautiful, sober, and rich, and I will live a very happy life every day in the future.